Good morning, everybody, and welcome to MA English Part 2, Semester 3, Paper number 10, titled as The Fundamentals of English Language and Literature Teaching. We are discussing the unit number 1 of this paper, and the topic of today's discussion is the medium of instruction. The problem of national language is the biggest controversy and confusion in India after independence. People have devoted much anxious thought to the problem of medium of instruction in the universities and institutions of higher studies, along with the basic schooling in India. Besides, the question is so wrapped up in sentiment that it is difficult to consider it in a calm and detached manner. For many years, the current of national opinion has flowed with increasing force in the direction of the replacement of English by some Indian language. The national pride legitimately felt hurt at the idea of an alien language like English occupying a dominating position in the field of national culture. Thus, as the national struggle gathered force, the desire for the adoption of an Indian language as the means of interprovincial intercourse, of administration, and of education gained in strength and volume. Although there are hundreds of dialects in India, the principal languages which possess literatures of their own and therefore can claim to be fit for media of instruction are not more than a dozen. On the attainment of independence, no language could replace English. The difficulty of the problem is inherent in the size of India and the character of her population. For, with the exception of China, there is no nation in the world of equal population or racial variety. Russia, which comes next, has about 180 million inhabitants compared to over 300 millions in India. Inevitably, the diversity of languages is greater in India than elsewhere. But this very diversity calls for unity. To reconcile the claims of diversity with those of unity is a perplexing problem in India that is the biggest hurdle before the Nehruvian government after the independence. Tamil has got its ancient inheritance of the language, but Tamil is spoken only in Tamil Nadu. Bengali also is very rich in culture, but then Bengali is spoken in only the Bengal region of India. Similarly are the other languages of the country. With a language like Hindi following the Devanagari script, that has been the mother tongue of the people residing in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, and most of the North Indian states, could be the possible solution for the national language. And so the Nehruvian government has accepted Hindi to be the official language within India. But there was much opposition from the south, especially from the Tamil Nadu government, telling that Hindi could be the national language, but if it becomes the national language, all the civil service examinations across the country would be taken up by the students only in this national language called Hindi. Now, this deprives the people coming from other states, especially from the south, who don't have the base of this Devanagari language. And as a result, the civil services examinations would be cleared by most of the students coming from the northern parts of the country rather than from any other parts of the country, because Hindi then for them becomes the national language as well as the mother tongue. Whereas for the rest of the students coming from the rest of the country, Hindi also is to be learned as a non-mother tongue language, a second language or a third language, and the examination to be taken in a second language or a third language poses many difficulties for them. There were many agitations opposing Hindi to be accepted as the national language. As a result of which, there was a committee that has been established, and the Indian government has taken all the care to to see that Hindi would be accepted and Hindi would be made as the mother tongue or made as the official language within India. Accordingly, all the national departments like the postal department, the railway department, etc., has taken all the initiatives, including banks, have taken all the initiatives to introduce Hindi along with English as the official language for 15 years. From 1950 to 1965, all efforts are taken by the Indian government to replace English with Hindi. But in 1965, when a free choice was given to the students to opt for the civil service examinations in Hindi, English, or the respective mother tongue, the expectations from the government is that the Indian students would opt for Hindi as their medium of instruction for taking up the civil service examinations, approximately 70 to 85%. Some 10 to 12% would opt to take it in English, and the rest would opt to take it in mother tongue. But when the examination was implemented, the condition that has been observed by the Indian government was exactly paradoxical. 75 to 90% of individuals have opted to take the examination in English. 10 to 12% has opted to take in the examination in Hindi, and the rest have opted to take the examination in mother tongue. With this scenario, the government has formulated the Kothari Commission in 1964 that has done extensive research by means of interviews and questionnaires for 2 to 3 years, and 1967 has presented the Kothari Commission report that has proposed a 3-language formula to be implemented on the Indian soil. This advocates that any Indian would acquire 3 languages at least when he or she passes through the education system. The introduction of the primary as well as the secondary education in India for any student should be in mother tongue or the regional language. The official language Hindi is to be introduced as the second language either from second or third standard level onwards. And English would be the co-official language that would be introduced as a third language from the 8th standard onwards for the Indian students. It is the respective state governments to decide whether Hindi or English should be the second or the third languages. For example, in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, English is the second language, introduced at the second standard onwards. And Hindi is the third language that is introduced from the 8th standard level. But in Punjab and many of the northern states, Hindi is the second language that is introduced at the third standard. And English is the third language that is introduced at the 8th standard. While in Maharashtra, as we observe, the mother tongue would be Marathi, followed by Hindi as the second language introduced at the second standard level, and English is the third language that is introduced at the 5th standard. Today in Maharashtra, both Hindi and English as second language and third language respectively are introduced at the 1st standard onwards. And hence, as a student in Indian education system would know at least 3 languages by the time he or she completes the basic schooling. At the college level, he or she is free enough to select the medium of instruction as mother tongue or English, depending upon the subjects that he is choosing. Most of the art subjects or the subjects related to humanities are offered in both the languages, while the science subjects and the commerce subject is offered normally in English. So, Hindi in all its literary forms, mainly because the momentum of the large members would support them, has the best chance of recognition by Free India as the language of the state. Numerous people outside the middle region of India, where Hindi is recognized as the culture, language, support its claim, and since 1925, when the Indian National Congress adopted it, it may be said that its claim to be treated as the state language that has received greater recognition. And thus, any student who is passing through the education system will develop at least 3 languages. Thank you for watching this video. This video has introduced us to the question of the medium of instruction in India, whether it should be in English or Hindi or the national or the Indian regional languages has been brought about through this video. Hope you had enjoyed this. Stay tuned for the next videos.